and welcome to the news on NTA International. This news can be viewed on our various social media platforms displayed on the screen. I am Noleen, Abel-Ameh, and my sign language interpreter is Hannah Olayinka. And now, the headlines. Minister of Information tasked radio stations on adherence to ethics of broadcasting as Nigeria joins rest of the world to mark Radio Day. Stakeholders in labor matters converge on Abuja to promote social dialogue for sustainable industrial relations. Plus, President Tinubu called for unity and resilience as he receives Super Eagles team. And now to the news. President Bola Tinubu has called for unity and resilience of the African continent for development and prosperity. The president made the call when he received the Nigerian Super Eagles after their return from the African Cup of Nations in Côte d'Ivoire. State House correspondent Abdurrahman Jibrila reports that the president also conferred on them member of the Order of the Niger as part of appreciation on their performance.
It is a great honor for me to receive you, the Super Eagles.
Appreciating their performance with a presidential handshake and conferment of national honor of member of the Order of the Niger, MON, President Tinubu says the Super Eagles have demonstrated a great example to the teeming youth in the country.
To many of us who understand sport, competitive football is unpredictable. But we are determined. We salute your resilience. You lifted our spirit. You made us proud. You made us smile as Nigerians.
With the expression of hope, joy, and the spirit of serving humanity, irrespective of differences, President Tinubu says the glory of the West African region has been restored for keeping the cup.
The unity and resilience of the continent, the spirit of the continent. We are very proud being in Nigeria. I am proud of you too. This country has a long spirit and year ahead of it to give you the promise of development, prosperity, and turning the ship around. You have done a great job. I am proud of you. I therefore present to you the silver-winning team to the AFCON in Abidjan.
Sports Minister John Eno presents the silver medalist to the President with the assurance of achieving a collective effort towards strengthening the national team for future competitions.
After 24 years, the country's national team that is here gathered won a silver medal at the end of the AFCON after 24 years. Although we were to win the gold in 2013, but this feat accomplished by our senior national team is a no mean feat. In what they have done, Mr. President, like has been said by everyone, they've inspired everyone.
Yeah, we gave all we had. We did our best onto the final. I wish that we were here carrying the trophy for you. I've been very privileged to be in your presence and be in this hall 2 times now. In 2019, I was here with a bronze medal. Now we are here with a silver medal. I have 2 gold medal winners beside me here. And all we can promise that we'll be continue to work harder, and the next time we meet, hopefully next year, we'll be winning home a gold medal.
The Super Eagles arrived in the country in the early hours of Tuesday from Abidjan, Côte d'Ivoire, after the 2023 Africa Cup of Nations, with all the officials in attendance. From the State House, Abdullah Jibrila, NTA News.
Abdullah Jibrila also reports that the federal government has hinted plans to establish a national commodity board as a solution to the escalating food inflation in the country, aimed at tackling price volatility and regulating food prices, especially of crucial grains and other food items. Vice President Kashim Shettima disclosed this during a 2-day high-level strategic meeting on climate change, food systems and resource mobilization held at the banquet hall of the Presidential Villa, Abuja.
Climate resilience and food security, Nigeria's vision for the future, an attestation of Nigeria's effort at mitigating the effect of climate change and ensuring food security for Nigerians. With food security being one of the 8 areas of priority declared by President Bola Tinubu, the government is highlighting ongoing policy reforms by the administration to ensure food and water availability as well as affordability. 500,000 hectares of land has already been earmarked as arable land, expected to immediately make an impact on food output. On the renewed hope agenda, there is also collaboration with mechanization companies to clear more forest and make them available for farming, as the Central Bank of Nigeria will also continue to play a major role in funding the agricultural value chain.
While this target may seem ambitious, it underlines the certainty of Nigeria's collaboration with critical stakeholders to adopt and actualize the agenda agreed upon with global partners and solutions designed by our domestic specialists. The federal government, therefore, being aware of the invaluable contributions of the smallholder farmers in land restoration initiatives, is irrevocably committed to building the capacities of small-scale farmers through various intervention programs to enhance their productivity, while also serving as a vehicle for restoring degraded lands.
All these efforts are part of the federal government's bid to actualize the United Nations Agenda 2030 on Sustainable Development Goals 2 of Zero Hunger and the African Union Agenda 2063, which aims to transform Africa into a global powerhouse of the future.
I wish to emphasize that the government is not unaware of the fears being expressed in some quarters about the plight of farmers, particularly regarding their security while working on their farms. I wish to assure you that we will engage our security architecture to protect the farms and the farmers so that farmers can return to the farmlands without fear of attacks. We will only make it safe for farmers to return to their farms, but we also ensure the activation of land banks.
Integration is the key to our future and to our progress. And being a former Prime Minister of Niger, it is extremely important for me to reiterate in a very clear manner that there is no other way than going towards a strong regional integration.
We have demonstrated the efficiency of the project in critical dimensions on building food security, and we now require ample resources to scale it to millions of smallholder farmers in the country.
The AU is calling for strong regional integration through food transformation, as well as boosting productivity and economic growth rate through the right policies and governance objective. In Abuja, Abdullah Jibrila, NTA News.
In other news, as Nigeria joins the world to celebrate 2024 World Radio Day, Minister of Information and National Orientation Mohammed Idris urged all radio stations, whether traditional or online, to be more responsible in their operations by adhering to the principles and ethics of broadcasting. Editorial functions such as fact-checking, objectivity and balance, the minister said, must be ensured before news is released to uphold the credibility and trust associated with radio, which most Nigerians value highly. Mohammed Idris also urged subnational governments, wealthy Nigerians and other stakeholders to invest in establishing community radio stations to strengthen democracy, promote social cohesion, and provide those living in rural areas with access to credible information in line with President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's renewed hope agenda. To make community radio more reliable, efficient and affordable, the minister said government has initiated necessary reforms in the process of establishing community radio stations, as 89 of such stations have already been granted broadcast licenses in Nigeria. He urged radio listeners to use radio to learn, grow, and make their voices heard. Governments, he added, will collaborate with UNESCO to drive reforms and develop the required capacity in the sector to strengthen radio's ability to disseminate credible and reliable information to the people. The theme for 2024 is Radio, a Century of Informing, Entertaining and Educating. The second National Labor Adjudication and Arbitration Forum is underway in Abuja with the theme Strengthening Tripartism and Social Dialogue for a Sustainable Industrial Relations System in Nigeria. Stakeholders in labor matters are looking at ways of promoting flexibility in collective bargaining in addressing contending issues to enhancing industrial relations. Austin Aibe reports.
The forum is described as timely, being that negotiation is about to commence on the new minimum wage for Nigerian workers. Organizers of the forum feel that there is a need to prevent unnecessary industrial actions as well as enhance social dialogue on issues of wages and productivity and other workers' welfare.
It calls for understanding, it calls for collaboration, it calls for dialogue for us to meet at the same space, because all of us have to contribute to the welfare of Nigeria.
Than ever before, we have a president, President Abdullah II, who's not just committed to minimum wage review, but he talks of living wage. So with that, there's a good spirit.
The party must actively listen to the concerns and perspective of the other, fostering a spirit of compromise and cooperation.
The present minimum wage act is due for review.
The gathering was encompassing in terms of representations from the judiciary, labor unions, and experts on labor matters, with all optimistic that with continued social dialogue, the tripartite committee will come up with an acceptable minimum wage for workers.
My advice is that we seize this opportunity to the maximum. But when we go to the table, we go with I give and I also take.
I'm glad that the association has recognized the role of the judiciary in achieving harmonious labor relations in Nigeria.
I think we should have a system, and every year look at the level of inflation, look at the valuation, and adjust. And it's important, because people have been coming up to say if you increase salaries, it will affect inflation, and then you keep that salary constant, and other variables continue to go up.
Director General Nigerian Employers Consultative Association, Adjudication says the forum is part of their contribution to deepen social dialogue for enhanced industrial harmony in the country.
The world is looking at us, and we hold a very prime position in the highway. The position that I think, arguably, maybe one or two countries also holds.
In Abuja, Austin Anyebe, NTA News.
Similarly, the federal government has assured the organized labor that payment of wage awards will from now be consistent. Minister of State, Labor and Employment Nkiruka Onyeji-Ocha gave the assurance in Abuja at a meeting with the leadership of the Nigerian Labour Congress and Trade Union Congress of Nigeria on account of the 14-day ultimatum both jointly issued to government to implement the 16-point agreement reached with them on 2nd October 2023. Onyeji-Ocha also appealed to the labor organizations to withdraw their 14-day ultimatum as the government had stepped up efforts to complete the implementation of the agreement. On the CNG, compressed natural gas buses, Program Director and Chief Executive of the Presidential CNG Initiative, Michael Oluwagbemi, who addressed the meeting virtually, gave credence to the minister's statement, saying government had made 70% payment for the procurement of new CNG buses and CNG kits. He said while some of the buses are ready, they expect to start assembling others locally, including the tricycles between March and April 2024. President of Nigeria Labour Congress, Joe Ajero, and the Deputy President of TUC, Tommy Okon, resolved to stand by their ultimatum, enjoining the government to speedily implement the agreement reached for the interest of Nigerians. You are still on to the news on NTA International. Let's pause here for a break. Stay with us.
We will work diligently to make sure every Nigerian feels the impact of their government, the economic aspirations, and the material well-being of the poor, the most vulnerable, and the working people shall not be neglected. It is in this spirit that we are going to implement a new national living wage for our industrious workers this new year. It is not only good economics to do this, it's also a morally and politically correct thing to do.
Thank you for staying with us. And now on the international scene, in Senegal, journalists kept vigil in front of the press house in Dakar, denouncing attacks on the exercise of their profession since the announcement of the postponement of the presidential election. This decision by President Macky Sall led to protest by civil society and the opposition. Francis Udojo tells us more.
Authorities in Senegal banned the protest march called on Tuesday following a controversial move to delay this month's presidential poll to December and extend President Macky Sall's term. However, a peaceful demonstration was held by journalists in Dakar denouncing attacks on the practice of their profession. Elimane Habe Kane, one of the organizers of the march, said he had received an official letter from local authorities in the capital Dakar that the march was banned as it could seriously hamper traffic. The United States and European Union have called on the government to restore the original election timetable, saying deadly protest is already putting youths against security forces and is threatening Senegal's reputation as a haven of stability in West Africa. The country's parliament backed Sall's suspension of the election until December 15, but only after security forces stormed the parliament and detained some opposition deputies. The vote paved the way for Sall, whose second term was due to expire in April, to remain in office until his successor is installed, probably in 2025. Senegal's opposition has decried the move as a constitutional coup and suspects it is part of a plan by the presidential camp to extend Sall's term in office, despite him reiterating that he would not contest again. Francis Udojo, NTA News.
Jordan's King Abdullah II has appealed for a full ceasefire to end the Gaza war after talks with U.S. President Joe Biden. King Jordan striking a discordant note with the U.S. President, who is seeking a shorter 6-week pause to give Israel time to bring to an end its conflict with Hamas. Francis Odojo again has the details.
At the White House, the King of Jordan and U.S. President warned against any indiscriminate Israeli ground incursion into Gaza's southern city of Rafah, where more than 1 million Palestinians are trapped. The Jordanian monarch said, "We cannot afford an Israeli attack on Rafah. It is certain to produce another humanitarian catastrophe." King Abdullah added that what is needed now is a lasting ceasefire. This war must end. He has repeatedly pushed for a full truce to end the conflict that started when Hamas attacked Israel on October 7.
We cannot afford an Israeli attack on Rafah. It is certain to produce another humanitarian catastrophe. The situation is already unbearable for over 1 million people who have been pushed into Rafah since the war started. We cannot stand by and let this continue. We need a lasting ceasefire now.
Similarly, Biden, who is seeking re-election in November, has started taking a harder line with Israel on civilian casualties, saying last week that Israel's offensive was over the top. Biden says the United States is working on a hostage deal between Israel and Hamas, which would mediate and sustain a period of calm in Gaza for at least 6 weeks, adding that key elements were in place but gaps remain. The U.S. president also says civilians sheltering in Rafah on the Egyptian border need to be protected as Israel considers a ground incursion.
As the King and I discussed today, the United States is working on a hostage deal between Israel and Hamas, which would bring an immediate and sustained period of calm to Gaza for at least 6 weeks, which we could then take the time to build something more enduring.
It was President Biden and King Abdullah's first face-to-face meeting since the October 7 attack, with Joe Biden hailing his fellow head of state as a key player in a turbulent Middle East. Francis Udojo, NTA News.
And back home, the chairman CEO Nigerians in Diaspora Commission, Abike has called for more synergy between the Commission and the Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment to enhance foreign direct investment as well as diaspora direct investment. The call was made during a strategic engagement with the Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment, Doris Uzokanite, during a courtesy visit to her office in Abuja. The NITCAM boss solicits the ministry to adopt the Nigeria Diaspora Investment Summit template, which the Commission had hosted 6 in the series. Responding, Uzoka Anite expressed readiness to collaborate, support, and even facilitate the next Nigeria Diaspora Investment Summit, noting that it is in line with the ministry's investment initiatives and policies. Uzoka Anite described the diasporas as great potentials for investment who are passionate about the country and willing to invest without too many conditions or demands. The minister gave assurance that the ministry will go beyond just creating a diaspora desk and create a department called Catalytic Investment Unit in the ministry. Elsewhere, Director General National Emergency Management Agency NEMA, Mustafa Habib Ahmed, says attention must now be shifted to building resilience against disaster in the ECOWAS to reduce the high number of casualties recorded every year in the region. The DG NEMA stated this at the technical consultation workshop on the regional resilience strategy for West Africa. Ilyas Yakubu reports.
ECOWAS Commission is mobilizing resources in collaboration with the National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA, and other partners in building resilience against disasters in communities in the ECOWAS region to reduce fatalities. The Labour Boss is optimistic that this new strategy, if fully supported, can change the ugly narratives of disasters across the region. He said the agency will put all machinery in motion to build the resilience of Nigerians for effective mitigation strategy.
The government of Nigeria has taken wide-ranging actions to enhance the country's national resilience. National food security is placed in the front burner across responsible MDAs, including recovery support by the National Emergency Management Agency.
Project Manager, UNDP Sahel Resilience Project Nigeria, Dr. Rashmi Teketil, said the new idea is already yielding positive results across the region.
An attempt from UNDP, but also other UN agencies, along with our partners, to support the ECOWAS Commission to deliver its mandate to build resilience of the region, of the people, to be able to resist and also recover from this crisis.
The workshop drew participants from ECOWAS member states. In Abuja, Ilyasu Yakubu, NTA News.
In another development, Minister of Marine and Blue Economy, Abel-Ameh, says the implementation of Ports Community System PCS in Nigeria will automate and position ports in the country for increased global trade benefits. Musa Abubakar reports that this was the position of the minister when he received PCS report in Abuja.
It's been a painstaking process, and in the end, the Ports Community System report is ready for implementation and submitted here to the Minister by members of Nigerian Ports Authority and the International Port Community Systems Association. The purpose of the PCS is for Nigeria to comply with the dictates of the Convention on Facilitation of International Maritime Traffic of the International Maritime Organization, whose main objectives are to prevent unnecessary delays in maritime traffic, as well as aid cooperation between governments, amongst other objectives.
To ensure you are ready to take a frontline role in the attainment of this noble objective. Let me also seize this occasion to implore the NTA to hasten the procurement process while prompting the company to deploy the PCS and urgently bring out requests for the Australian intervention, especially with regard to the aspects of the implementation that are outside the profit of the NTA and the ministry.
The next line of action is implementation, as the move is expected to enhance the ease of doing business and trade facilitation.
For the most important part of the project, which is the procurement of the company to deploy the PCS, for which we earnestly seek the kind consideration and backing of the Honorable Minister to actualize as quickly as possible.
The submission of the consultant's report is a combination of the intensified synergy between the Nigerian Ports Authority and the International Maritime Organization. In Abuja, I am Musa Abubakar, NTA News.
Next is a check on Wednesday's weather prospect for Nigeria and some cities of the world. This is where we conclude the news on NTA International. Thank you for watching. I am Noleen Abel-Ameh, and my sign language interpreter has been Hannah Olainka. Good night.